Well, hello, good evening, and welcome back to the Spirit of Watercolor. Yes, I'm so glad you've joined me again tonight. And we finished part one of the diptych, and I'm really excited to, actually, I'm just checked it out. It looks pretty good now that it's dry. And moving a little slow through it to get it nice. And we're going to add some interference and luminous paints in dual chrome. They're Daniel Smith, they're shimmer paints, they're iridescent, that kind of thing. And we're going to put those in. But in the meantime, to keep us inspired and moving forward, I looked up quotes by Claude Monet, and surprisingly enough, I didn't find a whole lot of his quotes. There's a lot of them. They weren't terribly encouraging. They were more about, a lot of them seem that he was struggling to paint. He sounds in some of his quotes like he is very drawn and obsessed with color and painting, and at the same time feels tortured to finish them. I mean, this is literally in some of his quotes you might want to read. I thought I'd find the most helpful one to me tonight. So I'm going to read this quote to you. And again, this is by Claude Monet. I write them on a sheet of paper, and then I put them in my little booklet that someday maybe I'll put all together with paintings. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And hopefully you'll get inspired maybe to keep track of quotes that inspire you too. They can be the ones I have, or maybe you'll dig some up yourself. It's really easy to find them on the internet, basically.
Claude Monet said, "Never even as a child would I bend to a rule."
I like this quote because it reminds me that when we learn to paint with watercolor, okay, there seems like there's so many rules, and there's so many, techniques and skills to master, and rights and wrongs on how to do things. In traditional watercolor, they say make the lightest part of the painting, the lightest values first, and then add more value and until you get to your darkest value. Another rule, and these are good rules, okay? Another one that I remember distinctly is, you gain much more perspective if you use at least 5 values. I've got videos on these things, so check those out, okay? Look through my videos or Google them, or do a search on them on YouTube. And anyway, rules. One of the things I taught when I was teaching is that rules were made to be broken, that very often we need to learn the rules. We need to learn them well, but we also you also need to know that there are times when you do not follow those rules, okay? Another one is, symmetrical. They say for a composition to look more realistic, you don't want things to be totally perfectly symmetrical. Well, there may be paintings where having the flower in the center is what the painting should have, and so that's breaking the rule, right? And also I often start with darker colors first, or from the bottom of the painting instead of the top, but the rules are good to know and to administer and use, but there are times when you need to change that to make the painting be a success, and that's okay, all right? And that's sort of how, when it says, in the quote about children are much freer to just kind of not worry about the rules, until they get older. The younger they are, they may go right out of the lines when they're coloring and not really care. It doesn't matter to them, right? And then eventually they start learning that rules, make it, quote, better, right? But not always, okay? So remember this quote as you approach your paintings, and remember that rules are important, but they're also sometimes need to be broken. So that's where this quote took me today. This quote by Claude Monet, wonderful water lily painter. A lot of good stuff. When I read the quotes, I feel like when you read a lot of quotes by one artist, you almost understand a little bit about how they thought. And I can relate, okay, because some of the things that he felt, I feel. As I'm trying to tape these videos for you, I often struggle to get them to the finished product. Sometimes I don't like the finished product, or it's not finished and I don't know how to finish it yet. And that's a very typical, those are typical artist problems that occur and that we have to deal with. And many of those things could make a person say, I don't know why I'm doing this, right? That's why I'm here. And that's why we're reading these, to keep ourselves motivated and realize that sometimes, you know, you may do a painting and you don't like it, it doesn't come out, or it needs work and you don't know what. But don't let it, you know, don't give up. You might need to walk away for a while, but don't give up. Keep it going and maybe redo it again, whatever needs to be done. Cut out the part of it that you like. Oh, there's so many ways to, you know, I have a drawers full of things that some I finally finish and like, and some that get tossed, you know. It's going to happen, and it's okay. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope this is helpful to you. I hope you'll join me on part 2 of the diptych piece. I could give you a quick show. I think it's maybe starting to take shape here. I kind of like how they're going, and you know, I'm going to need to clean up some things. I always do. You may not need to. You may have a stronger hand than I do. I never have, but I don't let that stop me either. There is some interference, and there's some metallic golds in here, which you'll see better when we're painting it in part 2. So please join me, and please like and subscribe, so we can continue this wonderful spiritual journey together, this wonderful journey of learning and finding the joys of watercolor. See you in the next video, part 2.